I'm loving the pop off.
What's good? Welcome back to the Pop Off Podcast, a conversation show about UConn, the best team in college basketball, the best program in college basketball over the last 25 years by a country mile. It's not even close at this point. They've just won their 6th championship in the last 25 years. That is one championship every 4 years. I'm Ralph Compiano. I'm your host, and I'm joined by the Box Out Boys in their last episode of their season. So this is kind of a Box Out Boys episode, and I guess I'm just coming in and, just talking hoops with two of my favorite people, Skyler Riesberg, Spencer Clark. Berg, what was your biggest takeaway from this game? Was it just this is one of the best college basketball teams you've ever seen? Was it Dan Hurley is a maniac and he can't stop winning? Was it Tristan Newton? Was it Cam Spencer? Was it Klingon and Edey in that battle? What's the biggest headline coming out of this game for you?
It's kind of all those things in one, but really it's just UConn back-to-back. UConn's dominant. They won last year, obviously, did it again. Really, by the end of this run, I feel like nobody was really doubting this team at all. Sure, you had your people fading, but that's more just you're always going to have people taking the underdog. People love that story, but I mean, Dan Hurley, I'm pretty sure said this, which is a wild thing to say. They're making a hard tournament look easy. Just game after game, double-digit wins. They did it again. Every player just does what they need to do. So my biggest takeaway is how did Dan Hurley become this coach that he is now? Because I was looking back just at his coaching record, his what he's been doing. Before they won the Final Four, he hadn't made it out of the round of 32, and then he just I don't know what changed. Like, I'm trying to find the answers of what changed with this man, because I'd have to think he was always so electric, like he is, so fired up and just ready. He's so good at getting his players locked in. That's what we've seen the past 2 seasons. So, I mean, yeah, hats off to UConn. Not much else to say. Purdue was the second best team in college basketball. I truly believe that, and they got cakewalked.
We can do Hurley in a little bit, but Clark, what's your biggest takeaway from this game?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for hosting this.
Thank you.
It's got like Bachelor finale feels when they bring everyone back.
Sure.
There's no sexy chicks and you're not Jesse Palmer. What do I think about UConn? I think that place is just run like a military academy by him.
Yeah.
Like, I know we'll get to him, but it's so hard to talk about their success and not touch on him because it's entirely the way he runs things there. But they just get legitimate guys. They got a real knack for finding these older guys. Obviously, Castle and Klingon are young, but they have a real knack for bringing guys in like Spencer, who are just dogs, who have kind of just been overlooked, whether it's because they're smaller, whether, honestly, in some cases, probably because of their race. Nowadays, people are looked over for that. So they got a real knack for just finding guys that buy in and hoop, and they find it. Everyone complements each other so well. The biggest thing I noticed between them and South Carolina women's is just they're so talented, but they're just so unselfish from top to bottom. That's the biggest thing, and you've seen how it's worked the last 2 days for both those teams.
It's the competitiveness 1 through 18, right? You've got 15 guys on a roster, even more than that. It's the coaching staff. It's the managers. Everybody in that gym is just as psychotic as Hurley. So to your point, Berg, about where did this come from, right? We can talk about the pedigree with the family. His brother Bobby played at Duke, won a couple of championships there, also a coach in his own right. Their dad, Bob Hurley, was the coach at St. Anthony's in New Jersey for like 40 years, has 26 state championships there, coached Kyrie Irving, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, a bunch of studs. Okay, so he's been raised his entire life to become this coach. He's only really been a head coach since 2010. He started out with the Wagner Seahawks. They went 25-6 his second year. Goes to Rhode Island, coaches there for 6 years, makes it to the tournament a couple of times, and then he goes to UConn, takes over in 2018. They go 16-17, 19-12 in the American Athletic Conference. They go back to the Big East. Their COVID years cut short. They're 15-8, and then since then it's been winning seasons: 23-10, 31-8, 37-3 with back-to-back chips. To your point, Clark, about the guys that they bring in, he said it with Tracy after the game. He said, we recruit NBA players, NBA talent, and they come here and they're selfless. They give it up. They abandon their ego the moment they step through the door, and they give themselves over to the team and to our program because they know that we're winners. And I think it's a huge credit, not just to him, but to Kevin Ollie and Jim Calhoun, the coaches that came before him at UConn. Ollie, maybe not as much, definitely
Kevin
more
Ollie
Calhoun.
shout out's insane.
He won a chip. He won a chip. Like you can't take that away from him, right? I think that was on the back of Shabazz Napier, but Calhoun is like Jay Wright said it too. Former coach of Villanova. He's been on the CBS postgame show with Chuck and all of those guys the last couple of weeks. He's been really good on that. But he said that when him and Danny were coming up, like they looked up to Calhoun. That was their guy because they were in the Big East with him, and so they've just had this pedigree for so long. And I don't even think it's a conversation. Like I don't think Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, I don't think any of those teams hold a candle to these guys, man. 6 championships in the last 25 years is insane, dude. Like now so it's UCLA with 11, Kentucky, North Carolina, and UConn with 6. Duke has 5. I think Kansas has 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. I think Kansas has 5. And they're just, can they sustain this is the question. But let's talk about the game itself first. So I've been saying it the last couple of weeks. I've been preaching it. I've been talking to even my team. I told them at the beginning of the tournament, watch number 12 and number 2, Spencer and Newton, because these kids are just the best backcourt in the country by a fucking mile. Like they are unbelievable. They do everything. They are not just like your average point guard that just shoots and passes and facilitates. They crash the glass. They guard like crazy. And even Spencer, like he's essentially Danny Hurley on the floor. Like he's yelling after he made the first 3 of the game, right? And then he's like trotting back on defense, and the camera pans to him, and he looks at the sideline. I don't know if he was talking shit to anybody or if he's just imagining somebody in his head, but I could hear him mouth all day. He's like, that's all day. Like you leave me that open, that's all day. And I'm just like, that kind of fire just gets me going. I'm gonna miss watching those two play basketball from a bigger picture standpoint.
No, they were absolutely electric, though. You gotta talk about that backcourt. We talked about backcourts all season. We'd try to throw in this team, that team, just fun backcourts we'd see just to keep the conversation away from the inevitable UConn, how dominant they're doing. And they showed during this tournament, it's almost like they get better in this tournament for some reason. It makes absolutely no sense, but they're doing it all. They looked like superhumans out there today.
Yes.
I didn't see many mistakes at all. The fact that these guys are just grabbing the amount of rebounds, they're doing it all out there. They're competing against the big man. Like they made Edey look small. They were driving and getting to the rim way too easily with a 7'4", just big, tall, dominant man right there. They made him look small. They took him out of the game. Like it was kind of pathetic at the end of the day. And that's just those two guys.
Hey, Riesberg.
What?
Gun to your head. Are you taking Newton and Spencer or Cryer and Shed? Gun to your head.
Well,
big gun.
So, I mean, the reason there's a big sigh there is it feels like there's a little recency bias. And before they completed this run, I might have gone, no, wait, you know what? No, I would never go with Cryer. I know he's a standout. He gets talked about a lot. I'm not a Cryer guy. I just see him fail in too many big moments. Hey, he's a good basketball player. I'm just saying I'd rather have Newton and Spencer. But if it was Shed and somebody else, a little more, I think I'd take Shed and Sharp over Shed and Cryer.
I'm not taking anybody.
Separate conversation.
This Cryer talk.
But I think Hurley is elevating these guys. Like that's why it keeps coming back to him. Because these players are good, but Cam Spencer wasn't this kind of player on Rutgers. That's why he got out of there. Tristan Newton kind of had this season last year, but he was with Hurley. And so it's just Hurley just being the badass dictator that he is out there with these guys, just demanding that they give to him everything. Like when you were saying that quote earlier about, come and play for the team, I know behind the scenes that quote is redacted to, or not redacted, it's changed to, you're going to come and play for me. Like it's all about me. It's just the Hurley show.
Well, I think they also have the size. Like they're 6'5" and 6'4" for a backcourt, and that was very evident against Purdue. Braden Smith's maybe 6 foot. Lawyer is like 6'4", and he's their small forward. Jones is 6'1", and the size was just evident. And your point to them about driving against Edey, they both had 2 ridiculous finishes that I'm just like, I like rarely see that in college. Those are like Kyrie level finishes around the rim. The Newton one driving left where he adjusts in midair and just floats it over the top of the rim. And then the Spencer one where he's crafting through the lane and he gets to his right hand and he does an extended finish. It's like that's the kind of stuff that you teach in practice, and not a lot of guys can actually do it against a 7'4" guy. But that's a perfect opportunity to do it. And I think it's a huge credit to Klingon too, because they probably go against him in practice. So it's like they go against Klingon, who's the best defensive post player in the nation, and so they're used to this. And now they're going against Edey, and they're like, I mean, he's not as good of a shot blocker as Klingon is. And I think we should talk about Edey, though, because he was amazing in the first half. I mean, he was fucking carrying. And I think the energy just expended like by the second half. What did you guys see in the second half that was different from the first half? Because was it the adjustments that UConn made, or did you think he ran out of gas? What was the issue there?
I think a little bit of both. I think listen, first of all, I think Edey played like 39 minutes.
Yep.
I know they pulled guys there towards the end, but like he's 7'4", 300 pounds playing 38 minutes, and there was times where you definitely saw it. For the most part, he plays the part pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be the guy in greatest shape in the entire fucking world. He's phenomenal. I think he's a pro.
I just saw just going from a game plan standpoint, watching Purdue is pretty easy to get their game plan down right away. I mean, they've been running it the whole year, but you were wondering if they'd switch things up in the championship game. But I mean, it was just feed this tall, dominant man. He had a quiet 39 points, just a quiet, however many rebounds. His stat line's insane. It felt quiet at least. Why are you guys looking at me like that?
No, I think you're right. I think it was quiet. I think the biggest thing they did in that second half was when they started sending that double on Edey whenever he touched the ball. And I don't know if you blame Edey. I don't know if you blame Matt Painter, but they're all game they couldn't shoot 3-pointers, and now they're getting double teamed, which means the guy's wide open somewhere, and Edey can't find him. They can't swing the ball. For a team that
almost seemed like he refused to find him. He wasn't even thinking about that possibility. He was just trying to keep doing what he was doing, and it wasn't really working out. His shots just weren't going in.
I think that's a fair point to him too, though, because nobody else was doing shit.
I think that was UConn's strategy. Is they try to take away the three ball from everybody else. Chuck actually said it in the post game. He's like, the big man isn't going to score 70. That's just not going to happen. Like even back in the day when the big man was the focal point of the offense, that would never happen. Like Kareem never went for a 70 burger or anything like that. You have to go all the way back to like the 60s for Wilt. Yeah. But like that's not going to happen in 2024. So they tried to take away as much of the three ball as they could because that's really Purdue's game, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they like to feed it down to Edey. If you double, they kick out to the three. But UConn did, and we were talking about this, Breeze and I, while we were watching it. You know, as a coach, like you teach like this help and recover thing all the time. Like the closeouts have to be perfect, and every single closeout for UConn was just unbelievable. Like if they get beat on a screen, like an on-ball screen, and the shooter gets open, usually the defender, they're not quick enough to recover, but UConn's long enough where they can get back and contest, and they're contesting from behind, from in front, they're helping, and it's amazing. So yes, Purdue's offense, not very sophisticated. On the other hand, UConn, it's like it's impossible to track what they're doing. Like I'm trying to steal plays from them as a coach, and I can't because they're doing like 7 actions at once. They're doing the one thing I can take from them is they do a lot of skip and slip. So they'll have the ball on one side of the court, on the right wing, let's say, and they'll skip it over to the left corner, and then they'll have an elevator screen occurring at the middle of the floor. And typically an elevator screen is where 2 screeners will close off so a shooter can come through, and then they'll have one of those screeners slip to the basket so that shooter is more of a decoy. And they got that like 3 or 4 times tonight. I'm like, this is just fucking genius stuff. I'm so jealous of like not just their coaching staff, but also just the players and the intelligence to be able to run all these complicated things and to be able to trust people too, right? Like when they had to take Klingon out and their backup 5 got into foul trouble, they bring in Caravan and he's playing the 5 and he's doing like as good as he possibly can against Edey, a decent enough job. But then on offense, he has to play the center position, and that's totally different than what he's had to do all year. He's a small forward, and he's doing it perfectly. Everybody's setting screens. It's not just big guys. It's guards. It's wings. They're just so I'm amazed by this team. Can I ask you guys this? So they're the first team to win back-to-back championships since Florida in 06-07, right? And that team mostly had the same guys. Corey Brewer, Joakim Noah, Al Horford, I'm probably missing somebody off the top of my head.
We're missing somebody big there, but yeah.
Right. But this team they have the highest point differential of any team in NCAA tournament history, plus 140 through 6 games. That's ridiculous. Is there another team that you think of the last 5 or 6 or 10 years that's better than them? Like, is it fair to say they're the best college basketball team we've seen in our lives? I mean, 2017 Villanova comes to mind with the Brunson, the Hart, the Bridges.
That's the only one that comes to mind for me too.
I think top to bottom, yeah. I think they're the best. The teams, when I think of like teams that could give them a run for their money, it's tough for me to think of teams, but one team that pops to mind is that Duke team that won it. Was that 2015?
2015. So Breeze was talking about that with me earlier. I was like, I'm so jealous of UConn right now. I'm like, I wish Duke could be this good. He's like, Duke has been this good. Like, Duke has never been this good. I can say that confidently. Like, because that team was 4 freshmen, right? It was Tyus, Justice, Grayson, and Ja in the middle. And Ja was a force to be reckoned with.
Right.
And I love Ja more than anybody. He's one of my favorite college basketball players ever. He's the best post player offensively I've seen in college, especially for a freshman. He was just dominant. I think Klingon gives him a run for his money. I really do. And then Justice just didn't have enough offensively to keep up with these guys. Tyus would have been too small. I think that they're just too big. Like, they really are fucking huge.
They're a big team, for sure. I would love to see the Ja Klingon matchup.
That would be cool.
Ja got so unlucky that he went to the league when he did as the Warriors were changing the game.
Yeah, and to the Sixers where they had Nerlens and then they brought in Embiid, and it's just like you have 3 centers competing for minutes, and Embiid obviously becomes the one.
Thank God they hit on Embiid there. They needed that badly.
I miss Jahlil Okafor every single day. You don't have to tell me. I miss him and Boogie all the time. Those are my 2 guys.
What's Jahlil Okafor up to?
He's hooping in Puerto Rico right now. He's like in the Puerto Rican Professional League where Boogie was at for a little bit. A bunch of guys went down there after they got bounced out of the league.
What's going on?
As a non-NBA guy, why didn't it work out for him? Because I thought, didn't he have a promising start? I used to hear his name.
Knee injuries, that definitely got to him. He also had a bad back. And I think it's going to be – so we can actually take this back to Edey. I've changed my thoughts on him a little bit. I didn't think he was destined for the league at all, and now I think he could definitely be a profitable backup for a contending team. I think that he could be. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say somebody's going to take a shot on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's 23 years old, 22 years old, so he doesn't have like the potential. Like, this might be the best he'll ever be, but at the same time, he's not old enough where he can't improve his lateral quickness. That'd be the one deficit that he would have. The size is always going to be there. Like, you can't teach size. Like, that's something that teams would benefit from, certainly. And he's a good enough passer too. Like, he's really good at passing out of those double teams. Like, not only is he making those decisions, but they're on target passes. And I think he's smart enough defensively that he can probably get away with drop coverage. Like, I think most people would say Gobert is probably the best defensive center in the league, if it's not Wembanyama. And that's a guy who, over the last 5 years, has just gotten so much quicker. Like, he had to get quicker, otherwise he was going to go extinct. So Edey has to, like, look at a guy like Gobert and be like, that's who I'm going to be. He's not going to be Jokic. He's not going to be Embiid. He's not that kind of guy.
But I think Edey, and circling back to Edey playing damn near 40 minutes tonight, I think he has the athleticism to get better.
Sure.
And let me play devil's advocate for a second and ask you guys this question, because I had this thought tonight. They got Klingon mocked up going 3 or 4 right now in drafts. I feel like for the most part, Edey won that matchup tonight.
I agree.
So why is it that Edey is a fringe NBA player while this guy's a top 5 pick? And I understand the age. I understand how well Klingon moves and all that. But there still has to be something to be said about how you perform against guys like that.
Sure. I think that's a great question. So I would say it's because of the spacing. Like, even like, all right, so UConn, I think, is the only team that I watched this year for college basketball that runs something similar to an NBA offense where their spacing is great. And so I wanted to see how Edey would do tonight against a lot of like the pick and roll and all that kind of stuff. And I think they took advantage of him a little bit. And now that could be also because they're taking advantage of Braden Smith and other Purdue defensive players. But it's just going to be really hard for Edey to keep up with a De'Aaron Fox, right? Or even like a Tyrese Maxey or an Emmanuel quickly. And that's not his job, but he is going to have to hedge on guys like that. Like, most pick and roll coverage in the NBA, and now we're getting really granular, is ice. Like, Thibodeau popularized that, where you force everything sideline to baseline, and that puts a lot of pressure on the screener defender, so usually the big guy. And I'm just not sure he's going to have the the quickness to keep up with that. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I hope that he makes it to the league. Like, I never root against these guys. That's my thing. Like, I'm always going to cheer for these dudes. Like, I want to see them make it. And because it just makes the game better when you have guys that are popular in college that go to the NBA. More people follow the NBA because of that. Because most of the guys that go to the NBA are guys like Stephon Castle. You watch him for 1 year at UConn, and then he goes to the NBA, and you're like, oh shit, 3 or 4 years down the line, he's an all-star. That's great. Good for him. But like, I didn't track him his rookie year, his second year, as he was developing into that. It's kind of like Maxey.
Ralph, are we seeing the one and done phased out?
Yes.
A little?
100%. I think you guys talked about it, actually. Like, I mean, who was the best player on the floor tonight? It was Tristan Newton, right?
How do you
He's a
ask
senior.
that question?
Cam Spencer. No, I think it's a valid question. No, I think it's totally valid.
We've talked about this all year, though, that Kentucky Calipari ways need to be changed because the one and done just doesn't work anymore. You've also yourself gone out hard in on a point that the one and done is gone.
Right. But that's not what I'm getting at here. I'm asking if we're seeing less players that are going 1 year to the league. I'm not talking about winning at the college level. I'm talking about if you're seeing more guys having to stick around for 1 to 2 years because now these guys are transferring, playing phenomenal basketball. And you can
expand it. That's
you can bet on the older guys because you have more of a sample size and you see how they play. Whereas these guys that are playing for a year now are kind of not getting as much run and not playing as well because they're playing better teams that are more full.
I'm going to pull up a mock draft right now.
I think you answered your question.
So we have Castle is like a projected top 5, top 10 pick. That's a guy who played on a championship level team.
He's actually right now, and I know we can get on mock shit. I saw it tonight. He's actually 15. Edey's 14. Which seems crazy.
Okay, so you have Cody Williams up there, Reed Shepherd, Dillingham, Jacoby Walter.
I love Cody Williams.
Jared McCain, Isaiah Collier.
Jared McCain's a top 25 pick.
Yeah.
Carlton Carrington, a kid from Pitt. Well, to answer your question, I think the guys that come in, like Cooper Flagg, that kid's going to be at Duke next year. He's going to go to the league right after that. Okay, so the number 1, number 2, number 3 recruits that come in are probably going to go to the NBA.
You think that other guy will too? Starts with an M. He was in the African NBA Academy.
Oh, I'm not sure. We'll see about him. He might be more of a project. But Isaiah Evans, Baby Ingram, he's going to the league after next year, more likely than not.
Baby Ingram.
But a kid like DJ Wagner, who is DeJuan Wagner's son, goes to Kentucky this year, is a freshman. He's the number 1 recruit coming into this class this year. Number 1, right? Nobody has talked about him all year. It's been Dillingham and Shepherd, Antonio Reeves, guys like that. I saw a mock the other day that he was projected like 52. That's a kid that should come back. And he can transfer to Arkansas and go with Cal. He can stay at Kentucky. He can do what he wants. But he needs to play more basketball. And he's not going to get the opportunity in the NBA. He's going to be Jalen Hood-Schifino for the Lakers, just the 11th guy on the roster, not see any PT all year until his 3rd season. Might be in the G League, right? Like, I think of – do you guys know who a DJ Stewart is? Does that name ring any bells?
Should it?
Okay. So I think that's a great point. All right, so he played at Duke 3 years ago. He was a freshman. He came in. He was like the 9th recruit, okay? Everybody was super excited about this kid. He was supposed to be a stud. He comes in, plays okay, goes to the league. He's the 53rd or 54th pick. Trevor Keels, kind of the same thing. Freshman, comes in, hoops, plays pretty well. He's like the 45th pick. Hasn't seen any playing time in the NBA. So I think that, Clark, to your point, those kids would benefit from just more basketball. It's really that simple. Right. More reps, more game time, more high atmosphere games, playing in North Carolina, playing at Villanova, playing at Georgetown, at Texas Tech, wherever the fuck it is. Just playing those games, because that's way more beneficial than just, training with Drew Hanlon in the offseason. Or like it really is. I
agree. The best reps you can get are playing basketball. I've always thought that. Just getting in actual game time and playing. Those are better than any reps, any workouts you can do. Just actually being thrown into the fire.
Because
go ahead.
If I'm an NBA GM, I'm taking a bet on Tyler Kolek with Marquette over DJ Wagner right now. They play the same position. They're both point guards. I trust Kolek because I've seen the tape. I know what kind of game he has. I can bet on him being a TJ McConnell level player. DJ Wagner, that's a crash and burn waiting to happen.
Okay, so Well, why you have your NBA GM cap on right now?
I always have it on.
Never comes off. It's on full time.
What the fuck?
This is it.
Why would you take a guy like Reed Shepherd, who was good, obviously phenomenal? Why would you take him over a guy like Mark Sears, who has proven at the same league, same level, he does it better, other than age?
Shepherd, I think Shepherd's tough. Can I do Dillingham instead?
Yeah, see, I just think Dillingham is better than Sears. But
Okay.
I don't think Shepherd is.
I think Sears, like I see Sears and I see Brunson, and like you see it in the face, you see it in the left-handedness, you see it in like all the pivoting and the paint and the shooting from like
it's the
26
laziest
feet.
comp, but it's so accurate.
It's so accurate. It's almost eerily accurate. And like I see what Brunson's doing right now, and I'm like, could Sears do that? Now he wasn't as effective in college as Brunson was, because Brunson was the fucking player of the year, and he was just a walking miracle. I don't know why I keep using that term tonight.
You keep using that a lot.
But that's a high bar to set. Not to say that Mark Sears was not extremely effective. He was probably top 3 in the SEC player of the year.
But he wasn't a walking miracle.
Yeah, no, not a walking miracle. not Brunson, dog. But no, I mean, he's amazing. But like, I don't know. Like, it's just, let's say it really depends on the organization when I think about it. Like, if you're the Wizards, like you have to take like the high risk chance, right, of getting somebody like that, versus if you're, more competitive, like the Rockets, right? Like the Rockets could compete next year. Go get Sears. Go get somebody that's going to contribute right away. Whereas the Wizards, it's like, why not fucking take the home run swing? Because Dillingham could be Tyrese Maxey, but he could also be, Malik Monk before he blew up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should get back to the game actually. All right, so
coming back full circle on this game, I got a little bit on Purdue here. I mean, we talked about the brilliance of UConn, but this Purdue team, we got to give them their flowers for getting over that Final Four hump.
Making it.
Yeah, they made it, dude. They made it. Hindsight's 2020. They were playing the best team in a class of their own. But what Purdue did last year, I mean, they were one of the worst 3% shooting teams in the nation, obviously putting all their eggs in the Zach Edey basket. They reloaded on the guards this year. They were shooting at 1 or 2 clip throughout the season from 3. They were extremely effective. It got them here to a degree. I mean, like, these players are good, but obviously you got to they rode the coattails of Zach Edey, let's not lie. But they were doing their job when they needed to. And then their whole game plan of when we're in this situation, like everything they did to rebuild was to beat a team like UConn, also to get to the Final Four, but to get over the hump. And then when that moment came, I don't know if you want to point the finger at Matt Painter not getting his guys ready, or just the guards in general for not showing up to play, but it didn't work.
I don't think you can point the finger. I think you could maybe point the finger at the guys, but I don't think you can point the finger at Matt Painter, because all he did, he had a generational college basketball player. You have to let him be the focal point. You have to do everything around him.
Right. And I'm not saying they should have, or I'm not saying they should change that game plan. Just more that, they rebuilt their team throughout the season. They were beating you with Edey, and then if teams game plan to take away Edey, they were beating you with Fletcher Lawyer or fucking Brandon Smith, whatever his name is. Braden Smith. And then these guys just go cold in this game, in this big moment where it's like this would have been the full circle, We'd be talking right now about Matt Painter's rebuilding job on the team rather than the dictator that Dan Hurley is, and how crazy of a run he's been having.
And I don't know that those guards just got punched in the mouth tonight. The UConn guards were way better. I'm going to say way better, way more physical. They punched them in the mouth, and those guys just didn't have an answer. Their answer was to throw to Edey. I mean, that was it.
I swear, Fletcher's first instinct was to immediately throw to Edey. And then some of these passes were not good passes. It kind of looks like, oh, whoa, what? You don't need to force it down there like that. You're wide open. Kind of create some offense by yourself. All the presence is being focused on Edey. I know they're guarding the 3 line really well, but you have a lot of opportunity to move the ball around, get some space without forcing it like they were. And that's where they fucked up. They didn't want the moment. The moment came to them, and they passed it away every time, it felt like. Braden Smith had a little bit here and there, but yeah.
So they how many threes do you think they attempted tonight? Like without checking the box
Was
score?
it
I have
7?
it right here. 7 threes. 1 for 7 from 3. And we talked about the live by the 3, die by the 3 thing. They didn't even like put the 3. They didn't give birth to the 3 tonight. Like they took 7 of them. UConn took 22. They were 6 of 22. What's the difference in the game? 15 points. What's the difference between 6 threes and 1 3? 15 points. So it's not like, I mean, I don't know. People can complain about like, more threes being taken and whatnot. Well, like that's the fucking difference in the college basketball national championship right there. And they gave up those opportunities. Now, did they give them up for more efficient shots, which are Zach Edey post hooks? Sure. But you can't give up, he took 25 shots tonight. He made 15. That's a great percentage. But the rest of their guys, like you have Braden Smith. He was 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. So he's 3 for 11, 3 for 10 from the field. A lot of mid-range jump shots. I'm a guy who loves the mid-range jump shot, love a good midi. But if you're a 6-foot guard, I'm not sure a fadeaway from 17 feet is the best look that you can get. I think there was actually a shot with like 5 minutes and 15 seconds left. They're down 13, and he shoots like a 17-footer and just bricks it. I'm like, why didn't you just pull the 3? You had it right there. Like you might as well just take that one. It's a 5-foot difference, and there's a 33% boost on the points. So it's just like, just take that.
And I thought the same thing. He's tiny, but I thought, honest to God, he felt like the only guy besides Edey that maybe had an interest in making something happen for them. So I gave him props there, but and I think a huge thing that people will obviously notice, but maybe won't think about, is how having Klingon in the low post, also being a 7-footer and physical, they didn't double Edey in the first half. They didn't need to, so those guards could push those guys out off the 3-point line. I thought that was a big difference too. And then they got a little comfy lead, and they started sending a double and started switching things up. But for a while, it was just Klingon down there, banging. And Edey had success with it. It worked. But like you said, Edey's not scoring 70.
I mean, he had 37 and 10. Like I don't think he could have possibly played better. Like unless he starts like fucking drilling threes out of nowhere, like there's not much else he can do.
So
make a couple of, maybe don't airball a free throw. Like that's really about it. But he was 7 of 10 from the line. But you've got guys like this Lawyer kid who played 30 minutes, right? Over 5 from the field. He was just doing cardio out there, bro. Like 0 points.
That is a perfect way to describe that. So, and that also touches on something that I'm thinking about post game is just, it seemed like Purdue only had one game plan and it didn't switch it up. Maybe I'm missing something out there. Like, did you guys see any switch up, any changes being made, anything they were trying to do a little differently to get better looks, better shots? Because it seemed like the same game plan, and we were just from the end of the first half, when UConn started going on a run, we were watching the ship sink, and it never looked like any rescue ship was coming to save that.
You know what it reminded me of was, all right, Clark, you'll get this. The 2009 Orlando Magic, all right? They play the Los Angeles Lakers in the final. This is Dwight Howard, Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, Rashard Lewis, that crew, okay? Their philosophy was dump it down to Dwight. They're going to have to double. And when they do, kick out to the open shooter, knock that bitch down, all right? Purdue seems like they had the same philosophy all year. Dump it down to the big man. They double. He'll kick to an open 3, take it and make it. He was kicking to the open 3s. They weren't taking it, so they didn't have an opportunity to make them. So it seems like they kind of abandoned their philosophy that they had all year. And I think that you could point that to Painter. Like he has to tell the guys that have.
That's what I'm saying.
Listen, we have attempted 5 threes today. We need to attempt 20 in this half if we want to stay in this game. Because that's the way that you beat UConn. Like Alabama had the closest shot at it because they run and gun. They get that motherfucker up. Like they want to push the pace. With this kind of game, it's like you have to take every open opportunity you get. Because once again, we talk about this all the time as coaches. Like if you don't take the open shot, you're almost being selfish to a degree. You think you're being selfless because you're trying to pass up that shot to get a better look. But there's a 30-second shot clock that we have to operate on. That open shot that we just got from an Edey double team might be the best look we get this entire possession. All right, so you're being selfish by not taking that shot. So that's where my frustration is because I thought this was a great game in the first half. 6-point game going in half, 36-30, whatever it was, and then UConn just blows the doors off you because they're just overwhelming. And I'm not sure about the defensive adjustments that Purdue can make because I don't know what adjustments you can make, man. Like UConn's just a fucking freight train on offense. They're so efficient. Like I'm really amazed by them.
so efficient, can play basically. They'll match any style you want to play. They're okay slowing it down. They're okay doing that. With Alabama, people were, pregame, people were questioning, is UConn going to go and play their style? Because that's probably where they have the highest likelihood of losing that game, playing Alabama's game. You're going right into their hands. They did it, gunned them out of there. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this. They can beat you in so many different ways where it's just, I don't know their weakness. I don't know. I don't understand how a team can be so dominant.
They didn't have a weakness. Every guy that they played, they bring in the 6-man Diarra. Turns out he's the 6th man of the year in the Big East, and he's just he's just an energy ball, dude. He's just like a little ball of chaos coming in there, like slapping loose balls out, like attacking the rim. He had a nasty finish on fast break, making threes. It's like every single guy that they put out there, you can trust them to make a play for you, and that's just such a luxury as a coach.
And they look so unfazed. And when NC State was going on that run or going into the tournament too after their ACC run, I was so confused at the beginning hearing, our very own Pop-Off Pod member, Mike Cerrone, talking about this Diarra that I'd never heard of on NC State. I'm like, I think you're switching guys up. This has got to be the UConn guy. Just keeps referring to him as Diarra. I'm like, you got to use his first name because there's like you said, Big East 6-man of the year out there. It really just threw me for a loop. But I'm glad we got the right Diarra back. I hope Cerrone's familiar with him.
Yeah, right. Well, I think the biggest difference, honestly, is just from a very blanket statement is, Purdue has maybe 2 guys that can go for 20, Smith and Edey. I think UConn has 6 or 7. I could trust Caravan to go for 20, Klingon, Castle, Newton, Spencer, all the starters. And I think you can trust Diarra. And then even guys they only played 6 guys. The only guys that got in at the end really were, I guess Johnson played quite a bit, but he was only in for the non-Klingon minutes. And then they played some Stewart kid for 4 minutes.
He played well. He had 2 big time oops. We haven't touched on it yet, and I think it'll get lost in the shuffle.
Ooh.
That putback one-handed dunk.
Oh my God.
I mean, our apartment erupted.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was very primal. Everyone was just in awe. That was maybe the best dunk I've ever seen.
Well, okay. Wow. All right, relax.
Hey, Mahomes tweeted about it, so it's got to count for something.
You want to know something?
Aaron Gordon just had a putback that was just like that. That was just as sick, if not sicker. And it was also Aaron Gordon doing it, so it was a little bit more
out of fucking nowhere.
It was like a live action windmill. So it's funny. I was actually on the toilet sending you guys Instagram reels when that happened to the group chat. I'm sitting on the toilet. And Breeze and Braden are in here watching it, and I just hear, oh! And so I stand up, right after I wiped, and I'm pants down, I'm pulling up, and I just run. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, rewind it. So I saw it not in live action, but I saw it right after it happened. I'm like, oh shit, that was worth getting off the toilet for, dude.
Dude, it was fucking absurd.
It got messy.
And then UConn went down the court and got 2 offensive rebounds and a putback.
Yeah, right. That's just the kind of game it was. The one time something amazing happens for Purdue, it's all right, UConn's whatever, not flustered, ready to bounce back. Next play mentality, man. We talk about it all the time. All right. Any kind of big picture takeaways from the college basketball season for you guys after this game? Obviously, no Big 12 in the Final Four. Are you guys nervous about the conference? Is UConn inevitable? Do you foresee them being, because this is back-to-back championships, and they are the dynasty in college basketball. Is this something that you think that they can sustain over the next few years? I can start looking at the recruiting classes and stuff like that, but I honestly trust that program enough to bring in guys that are outside the top 100 and turn them into draft prospects. Because Newton couldn't have been a top 100 guy coming in, right? Spencer's a transfer from Rutgers. They're going to that's the point that you made about the one and done era being done. We're now in the NIL transfer portal era where who doesn't want to come play for this team now? If you're that kid, if you're a boo-booey and you have eligibility left, why not want to transfer to UConn and be on the biggest stage and have a chance to compete for a championship?
But yeah, I think UConn is here to stay. I think, is Hurley the face of college basketball? Coach-wise?
Hurley's the face of college basketball right now. Hasn't won AP Coach of the Year in these 2 national title runs. I find that a little weird.
because the NCAA hates him,
I don't
dog.
even hear his
They're
name talked
conspiring
about
against
either.
him. They're preying on his downfall.
Do they hate him
all the time.
Do they hate him for a reason?
I bet he's super disliked among the coaches.
Well, did you hear him at the end of the game just come out and say, just kind of do a quick, hey, pause, everybody. Put some respect on our name. UConn's good. We've been good for the past 25 years, like maybe the best.
No, he didn't say maybe. He said we ran.
Yeah,
he said
he
we
didn't
ran
say
college
maybe.
basketball the last 30 years, and then he pointed to like the
that.
alumni in the stands. He was like, I don't know if like they didn't show them in that moment. That would have been a perfect time to show
They
like Kemba
didn't.
Walker or Napier or
Ray
Donnell
Allen.
Marshall, Ray Allen, Rip Hamilton, any of those guys. Like just show them. Okay, that would have been cool. But he's right. Like you can't discredit him. He's not wrong. Like I can go through the championships again if you guys want me to. Like they have 6.
No, you're good.
What Kansas
Are
has
they-
2 in the last 25 years. Duke has 2 in the last 25 years. Kentucky has 1.
Ralph, let me ask you a question. I ask Riesberg. Me and Riesberg have this discussion every week, talking blue bloods.
Oh, God.
And I really don't know. Is UConn a traditional blue blood? They aren't, are they?
Not traditional, because the traditional ones are like, well, even Duke is like technically a newer blue blood because they didn't start becoming a blue blood until the Coach K era. So like the oldest blue blood is UCLA. They
That was
ran
like
the
70s
60s and
though.
70s, right? Like they're the original one. Them and Kansas, really. Carolina too, to a certain degree. Then Duke came along, and I think they were kind of the UConn of their time in the 90s. That's when it all started, really. And then people have just recognized Duke. I think Duke is honestly like so popular because when basketball was becoming a global sport, that's like when Leitner was like the most hated person in America. So that's why I think people have this like
Awesome.
deep hatred for Duke. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. But UConn,
For sure.
you know, their first title's in '99, so they're not a traditional one. I don't even think you can call them a new blood because I think new bloods belong to like the guys who
Villanova.
haven't won it yet. The guys that are like on that second tier, like a Houston or an Arizona, like they could become that if they win a championship in the next 3 or 4 years. But I think that they're definitely a blue blood, like by all means. Like, do we consider Michigan State to be one?
No.
No.
Okay.
Are you saying that for new, you don't consider teams that have won championships to be new bloods, like a Villanova?
I would say they are one, yes, because they're even newer than UConn. They're the last 10 years. So I would say blue bloods are UCLA, Kentucky, UConn, Duke, Kansas, Carolina. Ironically, they all have blue in their colors, so that's funny.
See, and then on the flip side, it really is just how do you define what a blue blood is? But I've dove into this so much just because these conversations happen. They get so heated. They happen every day on a certain Reddit community. You go in there, you're going to see this conversation had with nobody agreeing with each other. But I think it comes down to just your traditional blue blood goes back to coaching history. So KU's the first blue blood. They had Alan Fogg. The guy who invented college basketball. They start doing their thing.
Well, that was
that
James
coach
Naismith.
leaves. James Naismith, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yep.
Alan Fogg is the one who leaves, I'm pretty sure.
I like the Alan
An
Fogg.
early on coaching tree goes to North Carolina, and then some of the coaching tree from Kansas that went to North Carolina goes to Kentucky. And then that's how it starts, just these guys that invented the game move around to these schools. These schools become dominant. They win national championships. And if they don't, they stay relevant. They stay at the top of the basketball game. You're always hearing about them. And so that's why it's Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Kansas. It's 4 blue bloods right there. Thank God they're all blue. It fits.
At what point, like, do you take out UCLA because they've made it to 4 Final Fours this century? They haven't won a championship this century.
How long are we going to let these teams live off what they did 50 years ago?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's a different definition of being a blue blood. Yeah, I don't know how it works with interchangeability because say we decide to take them out today. UCLA, we all decided they're not a blue blood. They just go on they win the national championship next year. What are we saying? Are we like they're just back in?
I think you should look at it like this. So Florida is the last team to go back-to-back championships. 06, 07. Billy Donovan is their head coach. When Billy Donovan leaves that job to go be a pro coach or whatever he wanted to do, I think he actually retired for a while. That job wasn't like the most sought-after job in the country. Calipari leaves Kentucky yesterday. That's the most sought-after job in the country now. Like, people are talking about Oates going there, all of these kinds of guys.
Has Kentucky lost a little luster though? Oates has turned it down. I don't know if you guys saw that scumbag Mick Cronin on the Herd today. of him saying he would absolutely turn down Kentucky if they offered. Like, no, you fucking would. You'd be on the first flight, you scumbag.
And
You can't stand
it
Nick.
sounds like there was a little backdoor deal he was trying to make. They turned him down, so he decided to go live.
Yeah.
Nick Cronin I just don't like the way he looks. I don't like the way he acts. I don't trust him.
Yeah, you don't like Mick Cronin.
You don't like guys in suits on the sideline. You're anti-suit.
No,
You
I
don't
want
like
you in the
Oates either?
smallest polo. I want the smallest polo you can get on. Oates. Now, Nate Oates. Let's get a little fashion corner here. Credit where credit's due. He's been doing this thing this year where he wore a white shirt and then he would match the buttons on his button-up with his suit, and it was a classy look.
I do like that. That's tough.
But we live in a world now where he prefers the Alabama. Alabama is seen by some as a better job than Kentucky. Granted, he's built something there. I don't know if that'd be everything, but 10 years ago, people would have darted to that Kentucky job.
Well, I wonder what he's getting paid. I wonder if there's a discrepancy
5.
between that, because there's definitely less pressure on him being an Alabama head basketball coach when you have the most sought-after football program in the country.
Yeah.
And Kentucky is like, there's so much pressure on that job. I think that's inevitably why Calipari had to leave. He's just like,
100%.
I can't satisfy these people. I've produced, 25 All-Stars, and they don't care about that. They want me to win titles. And he hasn't made it to the Final Four since 2015.
And that was on the national stage, too. Like, national stage is in. We're all seeing this. Everybody knows. It's no secret Kentucky fans aren't happy. It's no secret Calipari is just ignoring it up until it hit this boiling point after. I wonder if – not even I wonder. It's got to be a big reason that that this position isn't already filled. There's got to be a lot of people looking in. I don't – because they're going for the cream of the crop right now. The cream of the crop's happy looking at this Kentucky fan base in turmoil going, you know what? Not my problem, not my mess. What we've built over here is amazing, and I'm not going to leave it to deal with this fan base. Has to be probably one of the biggest issues.
On the Danny Hurley being the face of college basketball point, I wanted to go back to that really quick. Yes.
Yeah, please.
Who was it before that? Was it Kay?
Well, I think for a while it was Kay. It was
Roy Williams, Bill Self.
And
I think once those guys left, Bill Self was pushed for a year.
Yeah, but I would still put Kay. I would put Coach K and Roy Williams a tier above a guy like Boeheim and a guy like Izzo.
And Pitino. Okay, sure.
And I put Pitino below those guys. Pitino's just such a hot button topic that he can never. People are never going to give him his credit because they're like scumbag.
They're haters.
Pitino to Kentucky. Oh,
they're haters. Rick Pitino ought to take him to strip clubs and casinos.
Yeah, and that's hard. What do you guys think about that? Calipari jumping to the Arkansas job. I mean, what were your guys' thoughts on that?
Tyson, that was interesting. I liked it. I think you were the first one to report that to me. That was fascinating. All right, so Musselman goes to USC, right? That's the job that he took.
Yep.
Arkansas has never in my mind been a basketball program. I mean, they've always been, I don't know, like C-tier college basketball program, C-tier college
SEC.
football. They're kind of like the Iowa of the SEC, I guess, where like every few years they'll pop up. And I like the the color scheme and all that kind of stuff. I miss Bobby Portis there. He was really fun. But
so fun.
I don't know. Like I know that he can recruit. But he needs, we've talked about this before too. He needs an associate head coach. He needs somebody to come in their game plan, and he needs a disciplinarian. That's where I think like UConn is so successful. Is you said they are run like a military. I couldn't agree more, man. Like you can be the fun uncle to a certain degree, but once you become that, you can't be. They won't take you as seriously as a disciplinarian, especially 18, 19-year-old kids with 450,000 Instagram followers, their own brand, $250,000 in their pockets now, driving these crazy cars. With all of these women, like they have whatever they want. The moment that they step on the basketball court, for them, it's about them. They need somebody to come in there and kick their ass. Like that's what they need. That's why I think TJ is so good for you guys. It's like he's not going to put up with any of these guys that come in. Like they might get a little bit of money, like Omaha, but if they don't come out and play, you're not playing. Like sorry, you can transfer. I'll be fine.
Yeah, you have to earn your keep at this level, especially now that you're getting paid. You're no longer an amateur.
Right.
The thing, and circling back to the Arkansas thing, just because I've been kind of reading up on it today, the fascinating thing to me is that they have an NIL pool of $5 million, is what I think they've conjured up for him, and that feels low to me.
It does.
They have the Walmart family involved,
Jerry Jones,
and the Tyson family.
Yeah,
I'd be kind of pissed if I was Coach Cal and I only got a $5 million pool. Let me throw $5 million at a single player.
That's what they've reported to the public. It's definitely gonna be more than that because you guys, I think it was your first episode you guys did. It was the funniest bit that I had heard all year. Was if you're Warren Buffett and you're a Creighton fan, why not just give McDermott like 25 mil? That's pocket change to you, and just be like, I'm buying all of the best players. Like
I'm buying the national title this year.
Yes,
damn, it sounds like we just really went down after that, Clark.
No. That was just
we started off strong though.
No.
That was all you too, baby.
I remember that so vividly. I think that was hysterical because you're like, then you did the Warren Buffett aging thing or whatever. But I mean, I totally agree. Like, if I'm the Walmart family and I'm a huge maybe they're not that big of Arkansas fans. Maybe they're more worried about the Denver Broncos right now. But let's say they are, right? They're like, I just want to, give a bag. And now they have a guy that can go out and not just like he was already such a good recruiter before money was involved. Now that you gave him some money, it's like, oh shit, like he's really going to be able to get after it. Can I do one thing on Duke really quick? Because this thing about, and I think you guys actually might like this. I was just thinking about the point about, the lineage from Calhoun to Ollie to Hurley, right? Kentucky was Tubby Smith, Patino before that. Calipari comes in, right? Kansas, it's Roy Williams, Bill Self. NC, you have Roy Williams to Hubert Davis, who I think has done a great job there. I'm nervous about Shire. He's going to be able to get the recruits for how long, I don't know. I think they'll always have that brand. But I think they could very quickly become not UCLA, because it hasn't been 50 years since we won a last championship. But if there is a team that's on the burner, like on the hot seat for losing their blue blood title, from a success in the program standpoint, I think it might be them, because I think they're fully committed to the one and done thing. I think Kentucky's going to go away from that now that Calipari isn't there anymore. They're going to go back to let's bring in NIL transfers, let's go sophomores and juniors, all that kind of stuff. I think Duke is pretty firmly rooted in Cooper Flags and people of that nature coming in every year.
I think you might be right. I think if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm frantic right now because whoever they hire here is the next 10 years of their program.
Yes.
So I think Kentucky, I could see Kentucky fading for a while, like you've seen with UCLA. UCLA had a few good years, and now they're back to missing the tournament.
Yes.
I think you'll see a lot more hit and miss with them. Duke, you're right.
Yeah, that one can be explained, though, I feel like. They lost a lot of talent. They had they lost basically.
But every team loses a lot of talent. Whole team. You lose Juzang, you lose Hawkes, you lose Tiger, but like you're UCLA, you got to
bring lost talent. They didn't bring any talent in. Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, so point stands.
The same guys that could have gone to USC or that did go to USC this year, Collier, Bronny, whoever it is, like they had just as much an opportunity to go to UCLA.
Why are you not getting those guys?
Yep.
What's going on there? They have a better basketball brand than USC.
But what were we going to say about Duke?
For sure.
But I think you're right with Duke. They're committed to those one and done guys. And maybe part of the reason is also they get a lot of guys that stick around for 2 or 3 years that you think are going to be one and done guys. I feel like Carolina kind of had the same thing, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a testament to not winning that these guys have to stick around because they're not what you thought they were going to be. So maybe if a guy
could be a little both, and there's an argument for that being a good thing. Because I was reading something and it was definitely like a little troll post, but there was some validness to it. Basically just, getting this 5-star recruit out of college, everybody wants them. They're definitely going to be a one and done, but getting a 5-star that's like really deficient in one area, maybe they're just absolutely awful at mid-range jump shots. Maybe for some reason they can't finish at the rim, too inconsistent shooting from the 3, whatever it is, but they're outstanding in every other role. So then they don't go to the league, but they stay on your team and they're still one of the stars in college basketball. I think there's something to be said there. And that's probably, I feel like we've been seeing it a little, but on your point on Duke. Yeah.
Well, all right. So the one and done era really started with Kyrie. That was 2011. Okay. So they won the championship in 2010. That was Shire, ironically. Kyle Singler, that group, Lance Thomas.
Is that Nolan Smith?
Yes. Yeah. The director of basketball operations at Louisville right now.
Look at you.
Formerly director of basketball. Yeah. I think he's actually the associate head coach there. He's a snake. Traded on us.
I think he snaked his way. I think he's snaking his way in that job.
He probably did. He's a good guy. But all right, so they won the title in 2015 with freshmen. And then the most successful year they've had other than that was 2022. They go to the Final Four. They lose to Carolina. That's with Paolo in that group. So I think you can count on every 7 years at this rate. So the next time would be 2029 that we make it to the Final Four with all freshmen, essentially. And that's not blue blood behavior in my book. Like, blue blood behavior is a championship every 10 years. UConn setting the precedent at even higher. They're like, we're going to win a championship every 4.5 years, which is just insane. Like,
do you think Duke winning that? Because I kind of think the thing about Kentucky when they won with AD and that freshman crew,
yeah,
which was probably about 7 years before Duke did it, I think that it gave them validation that this works, and it hasn't worked since. But a lot of these guys aren't backing away from it.
Yes, and once again, transfer portal and NIL changes everything, because now there just wasn't as much flexibility and like the option to change so quickly. Like, that has just absolutely adjusted everything. So yeah, man, I don't know. I'm very excited for Cooper Flagg. He reminds me a lot of Cam Spencer. Has a lot of Cooper Flagg in him, or the other way around, because he's going to be a guy that's going to come out and compete.
How tall is Cooper Flagg?
6'11".
He's 6'11". That's probably what they list him. He's probably a 7-footer, dude.
Yeah, he's
freaking
power
huge.
He's a big boy with guard skills, and he's going to be the first NBA player to ever come from Maine. I thought that was a fun fact. There's never been an NBA player from the state of Maine.
That doesn't sound right.
His nickname is the Main Event. I love that.
That sounds right.
You guys aren't going to be able to hate him. You're not going to be able to hate him. He's too intense.
No. Okay, I think that Cooper Flagg I think he'll be a really. This is what I hope, and kind of where I think the trajectory of Cooper Flagg in college basketball next year. Obviously, he's going to be super hyped. Duke's going to be. They're going to have the spotlight on him with their recruits they're getting, with the team they're having.
And with Bronny coming.
But I think there'll be a renaissance, potentially Bronny signing. Well, Jesus Christ. Then that's a recipe for disaster, it seems like. Just too many expectations.
Tickets.
Cooper Flagg kind of feels like a renaissance. Like, potentially could bring a renaissance of the, old Duke hatred back, I think. If he's that dominant, if he's that polarizing as well, it could be, this is a hard comp with Christian Laettner, but I mean, just another guy like that. Yeah, Hansborough, just somebody for the public to hate on because he's good, and he's probably going to be a little bit of a dick too.
He's a
tall white guy at Duke. He's going to be a douchebag. People are going to hate him, but they're going to have to respect his game, and he's going to be one of those, like, I'm him, like, get in my face, I don't care, I live for the moment, and then people are going to see it. And I think it could bring back a little bit of that Duke renaissance, where just of hating is what I'm saying.
College basketball is better. College basketball is just a better sport. Like, people say college football is better when Florida State's good, that kind of shit. College basketball is better when Duke has a big white guy everyone can hate. They went through a few years between Grayson and Flip.
And I think Filipowski is like a fabrication of that. I don't think he ever reached like that level of like being able to hate him enough.
He had moments, and those moments came out in beautiful ways. Like, I feel like all the controversy was during the North Carolina Duke game, and hearing some of the North Carolina and Duke fans talk, it was just, it'd been a couple years since it seemed as heated as a rivalry. Obviously everyone's getting up for it, but it's like, this year people might have been questioning, is that rivalry still the same? And then you get like the tripping controversies, all that fun stuff, and it's just like they're both back to guns drawn, pointing them at each other like, yeah, I still fucking hate you.
Yeah. No,
I people hate Hansborough?
I hate
people hate what?
Oh yeah. I had to tell her Hansborough jersey.
Of course you did, because you hate Duke, so you're just going to root for the opposition.
Psycho T, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know people hated him. I thought
never understand why people like North Carolina way more than Duke, but it is
I don't either.
It's a cooler brand.
It is a cool brand. It has to be a Michael Jordan effect somehow.
No,
oh my God.
People just hate Duke because people hate Coach K.
Yeah,
and he's not there anymore, and they still hate him.
I know, but
it is what it is.
Well, okay, so I also wondered that, going back to the John Shire thing, how long? Because I don't think it is just this, especially with expectations these days. You get a long rope or a long leash to consistently do bad. I think after definitely less than 10 years. I mean, if Shire continues to turn in these seasons, which are good seasons for other programs, just not up to the Duke standard, continues to turn these seasons in, it's got to be sooner than later, right? Rather than keeping this guy around.
You guys were talking about it on the last pod, I think. Round of 32 last year, Elite 8 this year. So there's a progression. All right.
Yeah.
So I think schematically he's really good. I just wonder if it's the Calipari thing where he's not even fun uncle. He's like older brother. He's so young. Like he's so young. He's younger than LeBron. LeBron's 39. Shire's like 37, 38. That's insane. And I love he's my favorite college basketball player ever. I loved him. Number 30, baby. That's my guy. But I don't know how long the leash is. I think that he has the full support of K. I don't know how much that still means to Duke. I think he has the support of the former players and the donors. So I think he probably has another like let's say they don't make the tournament theoretically 2 years in a row. That's when I think he's finally on the hot seat. I don't think he's going to be on the hot seat as long as he's making Sweet 16 Elite 8 runs.
No, and he's still recruiting at maybe the highest level in college basketball.
Yeah, and that's once again, that's not because of him. That's because of the brand. Like people aren't like, I want to go play for John Shire. They're like, I want to have a Duke across my jersey.
You say that, but I mean, you also have to give him credit where credit's due. He's got to still connect with those guys and make them want to play for him.
Yep. No, I agree.
So, do you think he starts using the NIL to any degree? Because I mean,
fucking
since that's
hope so.
Been wide open. I don't know if we've had any.
I saw the Bialo guy from Arizona enter the portal. I'm like, go get him. Go get that dude. Like,
dude, that just seems unfair. Has a team ever had 3 7-footers? We're listing Cooper Flagg as a 7-footer.
Baby Ingram 6'9". I'm just gonna call him Baby Ingram forever. Isaiah Evans. I mean, you guys watch his tape, dude. It's literally like watch him side by side with Bi. It's like watching the Jordan and Kobe thing. It's hilarious. Or DJ Burns and Zach Randolph. Just watch Baby Ingram.
DJ Burns and Zach Randolph.
If there's a world where I think that would be so awesome, potentially at first, unless it worked out and they were really good, then I would just absolutely hate them for it working. But if they got Ballo, if they got Cooper Flagg, and then they have this NBA African guy coming in, 3 7-footers. One of them's coming off the bench. How do you stop that? Because it's not going to be a Purdue situation where kids aren't hitting threes and guards are scared of the moment. These kids are gonna do their thing.
Yeah, Jared McCain coming back. It sounds inevitable. Through it. Yeah, can't wait. All right, we should move into really quick. So this is the close of the college basketball season. We also had the close of another very important thing in our lives. Clark's yawning, so we won't take too much time on this, but Curb Your Enthusiasm. The series finale aired Sunday night. Larry David, a treasured piece in our lives. You know, as long as I've been alive, he's been a cornerstone of not just like my comedy, but honestly like my personality. The pessimism that exists inside of me is because of him. The cynicism, all of that kind of stuff. You know, my dad forced me to watch Seinfeld growing up, and I learned to love it. I would try to watch like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody or Hannah Montana. He's like, hell no, we're watching Seinfeld. And he was right. So I'm happy that he did that for us. But it finally came to an end. 1999 is when the original, like, not even documentary, but like 1 hour special aired on HBO. And then it came out officially, I think, in 2001. So, you know, a 23-year sitcom, took some breaks in between. But we're here to celebrate it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the finale, what your guys' thoughts were on it. And then one of your guys' favorite episodes I asked you guys to come up with. So I can do that too. I've already got mine prepped. But Clark, what did you think of the finale? You're a huge Curb guy. What's your relationship to Curb? Have you always loved it? Did you come around to it the last few years? Like,
I probably came around to it in the last 4 or 5 years. And you just watch it. It's such an easy watch. Such a fun watch. There's a old Mac Miller song where he's like smoking herb and watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I was always like, damn, what the fuck is Curb Your Enthusiasm? When I was listening to that, like, age 12.
So Mac Miller put you on. That's crazy.
Dude, yeah, I think that is legitimately how it worked. And I was never a Seinfeld guy. I'm a Friends guy. I wear it on my sleeve proudly. I'm a Friends guy over Seinfeld, so I was never into Seinfeld. I don't think Jerry Seinfeld's that funny. I don't need to get too deep into that right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of hate.
I mean, that's a take.
That is a take. So do you
Where
not like season 7 of Curb? Like, is that just like this season you just won't watch? You're like, it's not about friends. It's all about the reunion.
I still watch it because I think LD is so funny.
Okay.
And Funkhauser is a Mount Rushmore TV character of all time.
LD.
LD. But I thought last night was great. I couldn't really trace it back to the end of the Seinfeld because I'd never seen it, but I had heard so much about it that I just knew and said, that's cool. And that was my thoughts on it. I loved it last night. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go hand up here. This is just, hey, honest guy. I'm honest. I tell the truth. I haven't seen the finale yet. I think I'm like 3 episodes behind. I've just been watching it in my spare time after college basketball games here and there end of the night. So I'll get to it, but I'm okay with talking about it because it's one of the shows that I feel like you can spoil, and I'll still have I'm too deep in it. There's too many memories with it where that won't ruin it for me. I'll still have my own experience. I heard it was they did the exact send off that Seinfeld did, but in a better way. They pulled it off. It's not as controversial.
Yes, to a certain degree. He's very. I mean, he obviously loves to poke fun at his audience, right? So he's very aware of people's reception of Seinfeld that's been following him around for 26 years. Fun fact about the Seinfeld finale. I read a book called Seinfeldia 7 or 8 years ago. The year that the Seinfeld finale aired, you know how expensive Super Bowl commercials are? Okay, so they were $600,000 for a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl that year in February. Seinfeld finale aired a few months later, whatever it was. It was $1 million for a 30-second spot during the Seinfeld finale. $400,000 more than the Super Bowl. That's how many people watched that freaking episode, which is insane. You guys were talking about it actually on Box Out Boys last week, that you thought this was one of the funniest seasons, maybe the funniest season. And I think that the comedy is definitely there. Like, they're still hitting at a very high level. But I'm curious if you guys have this issue too. I experienced the same thing with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where once the cameras got to like this very high 4K, 8K level of HD and the directing got a little bit different, I feel like it fell off for me personally. I'm not sure if it's because of a nostalgia factor. My dad had the DVDs growing up, so I was just around Curb all the time. But I just love the graininess of it and like the lack of camera angle switching. If it was LD and Funk, it would just be one camera on LD, one camera on Funk, and then maybe one camera on the two of them, and the camera would be a little bit shaky. And I've been watching the clips the last couple of days from those. I'm like, this is just perfect. This is too fucking funny. And then I'm watching, last night's episode, and they're just switching the camera like crazy, and they have like probably like 8 or 9 of them in there, and it feels like they're doing more than one take. It doesn't feel as improv-y at some points, and I think that's why I loved Curb so much, was because I knew that LD would give somebody a cue card, and then they wouldn't have anything else other than that for the scene. Then they would go out and do it. And I felt like that magic was a little bit less evident this season. I still love this season. It's still, better than anything else that I watch on that TV of mine. But I don't know if it ever got to like season 5, season 4, season 3, where Ben Stiller and David Schwimmer are popping up.
I think you have a super good point there, because there is kind of a little bit of nostalgia with those early episodes, because it's kind of shitty camera angles. The camera's resolution isn't great, and like it's just a show that's been on for 20 years, so it's going to adjust with the times. But there is something to be said about those early episodes where it's like kind of just a shitty watch, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, and he never lost his crassness. Like, he went out with a bang in this episode. Like, he's doing, even the last 2 episodes, there's one where he was dating a woman or having sex with a woman on the floor, and then she transitioned into a man, and he has to deal with the repercussions of that conversation when he sees her. And then there's the Richard Lewis and his girlfriend committing suicide because he thought she attempted to commit suicide. Like, he's touching on like very soft subjects still, so that I appreciate, that he's just like, fuck it, I'm 76 years old, I'm going out with a bang, I could give a shit less about the political correctness of all of these things. He's always had that. He's always spoke his mind. But yeah, man, I thought it was brilliant. Good way to end the finale for sure.
Piggybacking off that, something that I thought this season that I think is so hard to do in 2024 because everybody is so fucking sick of hearing about politics, is he worked politics into every episode.
Every episode.
Blatantly, and it was funny. And there's a lot of other shows. It's Always Sunny comes to mind because I feel like they try to do it a lot now. And sometimes it's like, just like go outside and drink paint, guys. Like do something stupid. I don't care what you think about the election cycle. So I think that the fact that Larry David was able to make that funny in 2024 is maybe his most impressive feat.
That's a great point. Yeah, he's a geriatric too, just like our two candidates. And I think he's very aware of that. And he's like, these sad sacks of shit are both running for president again. I can't be in the same conversation as them. I'm going to retire on top. So that's great. All right, let's do favorite episodes. It doesn't have to be your favorite one of all time, but just one that comes to mind. You guys both sat back in your seat, kind of like the gamer visual coming in, ready to go.
Getting ready to go.
Which one of you wants to go first?
Clark?
I know. I got
Yeah,
it.
you look so ready.
There's a lot. I want to be clear, there's a lot. And I don't know if this is my favorite episode, but it always resonates with me. And it's the carpool lane episode when he hires a hooker so he can use the carpool lane and then like takes her to a Dodgers game and just like has a full day with her and genuinely becomes a good friend with her. Cracks me up every fucking time. And I think, if I remember correctly, is that Raven Baxter from That's So Raven's mom that plays that role?
I think so. I want to say, yeah. She has her tits out like the whole episode.
Yeah, which is hilarious. Probably filmed around the same time they were filming that Disney
How did
Channel
you
show.
put that together? Do they look like? Did you see it in the resemblance, or
Yeah, I think
you
it's
just
the same
found
person.
that out later?
I think it's the same person.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I think you might be right. I can connect
That's
the dots.
wild.
But yeah, also just a
Shout
flex
out Raven.
because it seemed he was always able. Like Curb was held in such high esteem, not just in Hollywood, but just across America, where he could go film at Dodger Stadium and nobody would care, and he would
Lakers
get
game,
all of the
Trip
extras
Shack.
there. Yeah, trips, Shaq, all of that kind of stuff. Like he is. I mean, he's the creator of Seinfeld, and everybody loves Seinfeld. But also, they started to love Curb, and by season 4, season 5, when that happens, like they're like, "Yeah, you can come to Dodger Stadium. We'll do anything to get Larry David here."
The funniest running joke, and God, I hope it's a joke, but if it's not, it might be funnier, is he just drives a shitty fucking Prius for like the first 10 seasons.
Yes,
And then all of
He's
a
a
sudden he
Prius
starts
guy.
stepping out like a BMW. But he just drives a shitty, like, green Prius.
and then he shifts to the electric BMW, and he has a charging issue with it this season.
Yeah.
No, that's a great one. Berg, what's coming to mind for you?
Same with Clark. Definitely can't say it's my hard to say a favorite out here, but this is kind of the one that got me into it. I think it's called the N-word episode, where you
Crazy
guys
Ass
know what
Killa?
I'm talking about.
I'm not remotely shocked that's your favorite.
It's just it kind of. I hadn't started watching it through yet. Ralphie, you might have even been playing the episode, back in the day when I was getting into Curb, and I mean, just that subject matter, the fact that the family's name is the Blacks, and he's talking to this girl who just takes it as, I'll run with this, and you're racist, I'm racist, so you call them the Blacks, I call them the Blacks too. Like, I get it. And then the whole other side bit to this too, with him hugging, what is it, Leon's mom, and he gets a boner because he's
Auntie Ray.
Auntie Ray. Yeah, dude. I mean, that just kind of felt like a little microcosm for me for the whole show of like, oh, this is heavy subject matter that we are not even tiptoeing around. Everybody's laughing. Like, you could get a room full of so many different races and ethnicities, and I feel like everyone's just cracking up at this. This is just good, solid humor right here. And so that one definitely holds a place in my heart, but seen it way too many times now. So on to the next one.
That's the introduction of Leon. Like he
Right,
just brings
the
a whole
best.
different energy to the show. Every episode with Leon, every scene with him is just priceless. Like the getting that ass Larry bit is just unbelievable.
Getting that ass.
And he's like, you gotta, step in there, eat Snickers, put a Snickers on the floor, and LD's just going after it. I mean, once him and Funkhauser came into the show, I'm like, oh my god, this is just as good as it gets.
Vince Vaughn's criminally underrated too because he kind of stepped in and filled the Funkhauser role.
Freddie
Obviously,
Funkhauser.
right, Freddie Funkhauser, but he crushed it. I don't know if that's. I think he's just a very good actor and doesn't get him much credit for it because he's mostly been a comedy guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
He's a good
he
actor.
steps in and he dominates that role.
He's so
Him and
fucking
Owen Wilson,
funny.
baby. If only Owen Wilson would have made an appearance in the show, that might have been the cherry on top.
You an Owen Wilson guy?
Look at me.
What a reaction.
Look at me. Of course I'm an Owen Wilson guy. And I'm a huge Vince Vaughn guy.
That just justifies this YouTube.
Your money, baby.
Riesberg, I watched You, Me, and Dupree one time, and I thought it was so funny that I downloaded Letterboxd, and it's to date the only movie review I've left, and it's like, this movie made me laugh for You, Me, and Dupree.
Oh, dude, don't get me started.
Is that get back in there?
That's Matt Dillon, Owen Wilson, and is it? Who's the woman?
Who the fuck else is in that?
It's Kate Hudson, I want to say.
I think it is Kate Hudson.
Yeah, I saw that movie in the theaters. Me and my dad, and he taught me a popcorn trick in that movie. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, what's the popcorn trick?
When you have like a bucket of popcorn and you're like towards like the middle of it, and like the little kernels start coming towards the top, and like you're reaching in, you just get little kernels. If you take the bottom of it and you shake it, all the big ones gravitate towards the top, and all the little shits go to the bottom.
He just taught you about gravity.
Yeah, he taught
me about gravity.
To a degree.
Oh God! In You, Me, and Dupree. It was fire.
You learned about gravity for the first time at You, Me, and Dupree over popcorn.
Okay, so I've got
with pop.
I'm cheating. I have 2 episodes, but they're from the same season. They're both from season 7, which is my favorite. And this is actually when they went to HD. But if I'm introducing Curb to somebody, this is the episode that I start with. It's Funkhauser's crazy sister, and it's Bam Bam, played by Catherine O'Hara.
Oh my God.
It is so brilliant. It's the first episode of season 7. Funkhauser's sister, Bam Bam, has just gotten out of a mental institution. And the premise is essentially that, Susie is Jeff's wife, and we haven't talked enough about her. Just maybe the funniest female character in the history of sitcoms, is having a dinner party. And Larry's girlfriend, played by Vivica A. Fox, might be being diagnosed with cancer. We don't know yet. So there's a bunch of different threads in this episode.
And he's trying to figure out how to break up with her before she gets the diagnosis, so he doesn't have to take care of her.
Correct. And he hates her doctor because he goes into his fridge and steals a lemonade. And all of this is happening. And then there's just this crazy pot stirrer in the mix. Bam Bam. And Funkhauser comes over to Larry's house, and he's like, Bam Bam just got out of the institution. And Larry says, as anybody would in that scenario, if there's anything I could do, just let me know. And usually that's an empty gesture that nobody ever takes you up on. And Funk goes, you know what there actually is? You can come over at 1 o'clock today and sit with Bam Bam for a few minutes, entertain her for an hour. And Larry's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean? Like, it was an empty gesture. Like, no. And he's like, yes, you have to. You offered. All right. And he's like, all right, I'll see you at the dinner party tonight. After Susie wouldn't tell him who was at the dinner party tonight. And Funk's like, what dinner party? I didn't get invited to a dinner party. And he's like, God damn it. So Larry goes over with Jeff, because him and Jeff are never not together when they go out in public for some reason. And, they're having this weird conversation. Larry gets up to go to the bathroom, goes to their fridge, steals some food. And Jeff says to Bam Bam, she says, I'm bored. He says, well, if there's anything that I can do, just let me know. And so they go upstairs and have sex because Jeff is constantly, chronically cheating on Susie. And Larry finds out about it. And then they go to dinner that night at Jeff's house. And all of a sudden the Funkhauser's there. And so is Bam Bam. And that dinner table scene is, I think, maybe my favorite scene in a comedy series ever. It's just so priceless. It's the licking of the glass between Catherine O'Hara and Jeff. It's just
They're blowing each other kisses.
Blowing each other kisses. And Susie says, even Bam Bam isn't crazy enough to sleep with you. Only I am. And everybody laughs it off. And the doctors are there. And Larry says to the doctor, I didn't know you were gay. He's like, what do you mean you didn't know I was gay? He's like, well, you don't seem gay. And they're like, well, what does seeming gay mean? And it's just like you said, Berg, all that tiptoeing around. And yeah, man, it's just a perfect episode. And then it ends with.
That's one of the few episodes that ends without, I feel like, Larry David getting in trouble. Or this is kind of one of the few moments, not that they got away with it, but they got away with something. And that never happens, ever happens.
They get repercussions later. But
right.
Larry finds out that she has cancer. And then he fakes the pass out. And there's that meme, that GIF now that is immortalized of him pretending to faint when he finds out, even though he's been praying that she would. And yeah, man, it's a perfect episode.
Dude, me and Jack actually watched that one last night.
Oh, it's so good.
That's awesome.
When he starts fainting and goes down in like slow motion, it's peak cinema.
It's so good. It's so good. And then the other one that comes to mind is the Black Swan episode, same season. They're at the golf course, and he kills the owner of the golf course, is Black Swan, and it's self-defense. And that'll come up in the series finale, Berg. So if you need to revisit an episode,
of course.
Stay tuned. We can't do a ton of spoilers, can we?
Yeah.
No, you can do the spoilers. If anything,
you.
I'm not surprised to hear that. I mean, it's I know the premise, and so I feel like nothing can really be too shock value here. They're just bringing everything back, tying it all back together.
Yeah,
but the episode I called
finale
out was season 6, episode 8, the N-word. Just wanted to get that out there for
so
everybody.
that isn't Crazy Eyes Kill It. I should have corrected. That's season 3 is Crazy Eyes Kill It. N-word is season 6, and that's the moment the blacks come into play. Well, all right, college basketball, Curb Your Enthusiasm, both wrapped up here on Pop Up Podcast. That's what you fuckers come here for. Is for those
we are
two things.
desperately sad about both being wrapped up too.
Yeah, man, it does stink.
And
I
it's
don't
the
know
last
what's
season
gonna.
of Sunny too.
Is it?
Is that real?
I'm pretty sure, isn't it? I'm pretty
It seems
positive
like-
about that.
It seems like they've been having a going away party with like the whiskey that
Feels
they're
like it's
launching.
time.
Yeah.
Feels like it's time for that one, and feels like it's time for Grey's Anatomy to let it go too.
God,
They
that's
should have
still
let
going.
it go years ago.
Yeah.
Like, they
Yeah,
just got renewed
dude, I see
episode
memes
22.
of whoever plays that girl, Meredith Grey. Just her starting the show to her now, like
She looks
she
exhausted.
just looked like she wants the show to be over. I can't believe that's still on.
Yeah, her
That
skin
shit
is
is-
going gray, not just her
We're
hair.
sad
wow,
about
that's so
2 of these shows. We're not sad about Grey's Anatomy. They
We're
need
sad
to
that
call
it's
it.
still going on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let it go. All right. Well, yeah, we have the NBA to look forward to. The regular season's wrapping up here on Sunday, so we'll come back later this week and we'll kind of give you guys a recap of the NBA for the people that haven't watched the regular season. I'll be doing some stuff there. For the Box Out Boys, though, hopefully you guys, can get into some NBA hoops. Maybe start doing some playoff coverage. That would be brilliant. I would love to hear your guys' fresh takes on the Magic Pacers series that's going to feature Tyrese Halliburton and Paolo Banchero.
You might see us sporadically over the next 6-8 months.
Yeah, big transfers happen, big commits happen. Coaches when Kentucky gets their new coach, all that kind of good stuff. We should
It
be
should
hearing
be
from them.
sooner than later, you'd think, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe nobody wants the job. Maybe they'll just hire a walk-on.
Oh, I've got a suggestion. This actually came to mind while we were recording. Before we go, Rajon Rondo, former point guard
What
at
about him?
Kentucky.
He'd be good.
One of the best basketball minds ever. One of the best
Do you
point
think
guards.
I don't know that they would just hand the keys to him like that?
They should.
Hey,
Fresh young face. You want militaristic? You go to Rondo. That guy played for Tom Thibodeau and Doc Rivers on the same team. Played with Kevin Garnett.
didn't Rondo beat his kid?
Yeah, something like that.
Well,
That's
Dan definitely beat Andrew. You see him when they gave him the mic. Andrew got up there. He said his scripted speech that Dan gave him, and then immediately the mic went to his father, Mr. Hurley, and he did a little
Can you
salute.
believe that Dan and Bobby coached high school basketball together? Imagine going to 8th period math class and then being like, I gotta go to basketball practice with the Hurley brothers. Holy shit!
Well, there was a moment actually during the ceremony where it was Danny, his dad, and his mom, and he's holding the trophy in the middle, and his dad is like, "Can I hold the trophy for this picture?" Danny's like, "No, absolutely not. No, this is my trophy." And you could see the competitive. There seemed like there's some hatred there, but maybe that's what every good father-son dynamic. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. We love you. We appreciate you.
We got Clark. You got to close this out one last time.
You do.
You do it so good. I can't let this moment pass.
Stretch it out. Maybe take the beanie off for this one. Get classy. Now you decide to use the mic? Oh my God.
As we wind down on the college basketball year, we see the moon overtake the sun, like the eclipse today. Total darkness in our future. Yeah, we have NBA to look forward to. We have MLB. But none of those quench the soul, quench the thirst like college basketball does. So as you go into your summer, have fun. Get loose. Say what's up to that shorty at the bar. But when fall comes around, keep her at arm's distance. Because college basketball will soon be back. You won't have time for her. You will need to focus on basketball. And when you do, we will be here to welcome you with open arms. Because we aren't going anywhere. We will see you in the fall.
I can't in
It's a
good
gift.
conscience let that be the outro. Watch NBA basketball. We'll see you on the other side. Peace out.
I'm loving the pop off.